much for that introduction, Kamla. And let me just add and say a proud member of CCGI. And just kudos to, I have to start by saying kudos to Kamla and team. I know what happens behind the scenes for the preparation for a week like this. And I have to say that so far, I think it's been excellent. I think everyone really enjoyed the presentation this morning, and it's an excellent segue into the panel I'm about to introduce. Very excited to have a conversation today in respect of driving synergies and governance excellence in complex organizations. And of course, this is against the theme of, doing this in this age of generative AI, right? So all this disruption and so much change. So delighted to have a panel of excellence today, of strong leaders who will share their thoughts with us on how we can drive synergies and governance excellence, and whether or not AI is the path to do that in complex organizations such as conglomerates, which is our theme for today. So I'd like to quickly introduce Claire, Andrew, and I'm going to introduce Dale, even though I understand that Dale may jump in a little bit later. So I'll tell you a little bit of each of these excellent leaders. And Kamla, I'm really happy that you mentioned that we'll just give a brief introduction. So please forgive me, Claire and Andrew. I have these lengthy and excellent bios for each of you. Forgive me, I hope I will not do any injustice by trying to make them a little bit shorter in light of the time that we have today.
That's fine.
So first, let me just quickly introduce Claire Gomez-Miller, who I know is definitely no stranger to this CCGI. So Claire is a chartered certified accountant and fellow of the United Kingdom's Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, FCCA, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Trinidad and Tobago. She's a certified internal auditor, a risk management assurance professional, and Claire has more than 30 years internal audit, managing internal audit, risk management, governance experience in state and private organizations within the energy, insurance, and financial sectors at senior executive level, as well as board level. Claire has extensive board experience. At this time, she's the managing director of British American Insurance Company, which is based in Trinidad. She's a board member of the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority. She's an active consultant, facilitator, speaker. I think many of us can attest to this because I think many of us have actually seen Claire in action, which is always a pleasure. And she provides training interventions for boards of directors and officers within the region. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Andrew Levy. It's a pleasure to have Andrew here. Andrew is an experienced insurance executive and strategic advisor with over 3 decades of leadership in Caribbean general insurance sector. He's renowned for his transformative impact on organizations. Andrew has consistently driven profitable growth, operational excellence, and cultural renewal across multiple markets. As a former CEO and industry leader, Andrew has successfully led regional mergers and acquisitions, including a landmark transaction that doubled the size of his company. Today, Andrew serves as a partner at Helios Consulting, where he advises clients in the areas of insurance technology, operations, CSR, nonprofit governance, strategic facilitation, and he served on a number of significant boards. So welcome, Andrew and Claire. I'll just give a brief intro of Dale, who I hope will join us a little bit later. And Mr. Dale Parsons Mr. Dale Parson is the CEO of KPL Group Limited, which is a diversified group in the manufacturing and distribution industry in paints, adhesives, and brewery beverage products. He holds a BSc in engineering and MSc in strategic leadership. He's a member of the board of engineers of Trinidad and Tobago. And as the chief executive officer of a regionally recognized privately held organization, he's acquired extensive knowledge and experience in manufacturing, competitiveness, international trade, management, international business operations, and strategic planning. So I think everyone will agree that we have a pretty amazing panel today. I really hope that Dale will be able to join us as well so he can share his thoughts. So I'm really excited to have the conversation with Andrew and Claire to start off with. Claire, please, the floor is yours. Welcome your thoughts on this important topic, how we drive synergies and governance excellence in complex organizations against the backdrop of generative AI.
Thank you very much for that exciting introduction. I think you have woken up everyone from their lunchtime slumber. So I will go straight into it. Fortunately, my electricity is back on, so I'm now able to better position myself so that you can see me not having my eyes looking up and down and sideways. All right. So driving synergies and governance excellence in complex organizations. And I think a lot of us would have had experience with organizations that are beyond the 50 persons, beyond 100 persons. There are organizations with 1,000 persons. And then you have these organizations that have their formations as conglomerates or multinational organizations, etc. And as such, you would have a lot more of these subsidiary companies, these affiliated organizations. And then you have complex organizations that, even though it might not be a group organization, but within the organization itself, the nature of the operations of the organization can give you that level of complexities that the board and directors, or the board, the directors on the various committees and the officers of the organizations would need to go beyond what they would normally do in an organization that is more simple, more stable organization, etc. I think that with the artificial intelligence that we are dealing with in our generation and our lifetime, it's proven to be very, very complex. So I would want to say that all organizations now must face that complexity, and especially as it is now at that foundational stage. Remember, a lot of things have not been proven within artificial intelligence. It means to say that all organizations are still grappling with the nuances of AI in the various organizations. And how do you understand all of the nuances of that AI? What is it that the board should know? And how do they drive these organizations? Now, I would want to say to each and everyone, look at it from the foundation that you already have in place. And a lot of us would have gone through the McKinsey model for complex organizations, where they just have that 7 simple elements that you need to focus on, regardless of what is happening. Even if it is that we end up in World War III, and you now have a simple organization becoming very complex as the supply chain, as even doing day-to-day business, because what we have to look at, our environment changes, the world changes, and as such, those changes will be coming upon us. Yes. So how do we navigate those changes, and how do we make sure that throughout the organization, we are aware of what is happening and we are positively able to influence those changes? Right? So the McKinsey model is a change management strategy framework that analyzes a company's organization design to help the board and officers to look at the organization during that change period. And if it is that we could just look at it from the simple perspective of those elements, I believe it would be able to help us as directors and officers of organizations to go through this change. So as I think one of the speakers earlier this week mentioned, change is inevitable when we reach to AI. So we have to accept AI is here, and it is here to stay. It is here to stay. Right? So looking at where do we start? Because at the end of the day, we all need to know what are some of the simple tools that we can use to navigate through these complexities. Yeah. And I would always start with the structure that has to be established by the board. So in looking at the structure, how do you ensure that you now have that accountability, the reporting lines, decision-making processes, etc., that will support that change that is being created by AI in the organization. If it is that you don't put in a unit, depending on the organization, and we are looking now at a complex organization, so we need to have that level of collaboration in forming that team. Yes, so it means your structure must be able to take recognition of such a team that has to be interdepartmental, cross-sectional. If it is that you have the various subsidiaries, affiliated organizations, and even partnerships, all of those must be seen within that organization type framework when it is that you're dealing with that AI. So cybersecurity risk comes with AI. AI brings its own challenges. So how do we make sure that we collaboratively set that structure that will ensure there is that department of subject matter experts that are now given sufficient authority to drive that change throughout the organization. Yeah. So your structure will definitely have to change. Your strategy. When you're setting up your strategies, your strategic plan, the business plans, etc., all of that now will have to be revisited. If you don't have AI, you don't have cybersecurity threats within that strategic plan, then you now need to go back in there and really ensure there is a place for it. Force it into that strategic plan. Don't continue having a strategic plan that does not demonstrate how the organization is going to focus on this, the AI and the cybersecurity threats. I believe that AI brings more threats to the organization than just pure technology, as we knew it. So it means that understanding it from that strategic perspective is very important. It means to say that the board will also have focus on it. Because if it is not seen as a strategic objective to deal with that AI change, it means that it is not going to be driven at the board level. And you want the board to be aware of what it is. How do we resource it? How do we make sure that we are focusing on those things that matter? And AI matters. The systems that you have right now would also have to be re-examined to ensure that the impact of AI on technology, on your workflows, on the infrastructure, etc., are brought to bear. So you may find that you'd have to go back in, look at your firewalls, simple things like that, to make sure, are these unwanted, intrusive AI applications coming into your organization? Are they causing any changes to within your organization that you are not aware of? Yes, so your systems have to be looked at, especially your computerized systems and the infrastructure. Of course, the hard elements would have been, as we said before, the structure, strategy, and systems. And all of those must be considered within the governance framework. Yeah, but we also have those soft elements, and you know it's harder to deal with soft elements as we deal with the harder ones. Yes, so the shared values, which means that you must have the right culture to drive this change that is coming upon us. Not coming upon us, but has arrived. So I need to change my language also. You know, AI is here. AI is here. We have to recognize it. We have to adapt to it. So it's either we decide that we want to have a culture of risk awareness of what AI is bringing into these organizations, or do we want to just let it be organically developed within the organization? I don't think any board would want to do that. They would have to be able to set the right culture for that organization that will drive the acceptance of AI, because at the end of the day, we are forced to accept it one way or the other, but accept it with risk intelligence, which means we must understand the risk that is bringing to us we must understand the benefit that we can get out of it. Yes, so you definitely want to have a risk intelligent culture. You want to have an innovative culture. Yeah, apart from being ethical, because remember too, AI can be used in unethical and illegal ways. So you definitely want to make sure that your ethical and legal culture remains within the organization as you go through the change. Yes, enforcing that value from the parent organization or from the boardroom straight into all corners of these organizations is very important. So that implementation of collaborative governance, yeah, is going to be critical when you get into the area of driving the soft elements. So it means your communication system must be there so that everybody's on that same page. Yes, because AI is not something that will sit in one part of the organization. It will transcend throughout every aspect of the organization or the group of companies or the conglomerate. Whatever it may be, understand that it is going to impact every single area of the organizations. And as such, you must understand it from the risk perspective. Yeah, and also the benefit. How can we benefit? What value can it bring to the organization? The skills may have to change. So we also need to look at that. How many of our persons within that organization we will need to have as subject matter expert? You're talking about complex organizations. So complex organizations, you may have multiple product lines. Yes, you may have very sensitive copyrighted or protected documents or products, whatever they may be. And as such, you want to make sure that the skill set within the organization is there to protect the integrity of those assets and those copyrights, etc., that you may have. Because remember, AI can infiltrate into any and every single thing that is being done. You're seeing it creeping up in your meetings. You're seeing it creeping up in your WhatsApp. It's creeping up everywhere. And you try to remove it, you cannot. Yeah, so you have your co-pilot, which is AI, your Meta WhatsApp or whatever it is it's calling itself. All of those things are AI driven. So regardless of how you're trying to slow down that infiltration of AI in the organization, I think you are fighting a losing battle. So it means reskilling the persons within the organization for them to recognize when AI gets into their space, tries to integrate with their systems and the way that they do business and the way they communicate, and also to the form of the communication. What is real and what is not real is very important. So I do believe that reskilling of the workforce is very important as we move forward, to ensure that everyone recognizes what is the truth and what is not the truth. And that is a simple issue with AI. What is the truth? What is not the truth? And how can every single person in the organization recognize a letter of authority coming from the top that is a genuine, valid piece of correspondence as against an AI-generated correspondence? So we want to make sure that everyone within that organization understands those threats and how to respond to it. The leadership style has to also adapt to address the challenges that we are seeing with AI. Yeah? The leadership style drives culture, but if it is the leaders of the organization don't understand that we need to change to allow AI to be best adapted within the organization, you are not going to be successful in responding to the threats of AI. So it means the leadership style has to be collaborative. They have to be open to learning new things, because AI brings that force force that you have to learn. You have to rethink how you see things, not how you do things, but how you see things. And seeing is very important. If it is that you see the wrong things, it means to say that we are going to make the wrong decisions. So we want to make sure that whatever comes up to us is human generated, so that even if reliance is being placed with AI, ChatGPT, etc., that the human being sits there, and that's what you're paying them for. You're not paying ChatGPT or AI. You are paying a human being who now needs to bring his or her brain to this matter and make sure that they interpret it the right way. They make sure they present it in the right way, and everything is ethical and legal. So you must be able to have that that culture, the skills to make it work, and the leadership style that will drive it. Right? The staff, again, we need to understand the impact of AI on staffing. Now, in a complex organization, you may have algorithms outside there that might be able to take up some of that level of complexity. But most of the time, the complexity is being driven by the intellectual capital that is within the organization. Yes, and that is what is bringing that level of complexity. Otherwise, if it is, you break it down into its various parts, it's not supposed to be as complex as you'd want to think. And if it is deliberately being made complex, then it means something is wrong. You know, so we want to make sure that everyone understands the organization, from the structure, the culture, the style of leadership. Everything must be broken down to simplicity to support this change that is upon us. Yeah. So the staffing now, they must be assured that the advent of AI is not going to just take away their jobs. I remember years ago when we were introduced to a computer in my lifetime. Remember my lifetime, I would have seen the introduction of computers at the workplace. And as such, the fear was that these computers are, no, and I take back that word fear. What was actually happening? Management was justifying the acquisition of computers. Yeah. And one of the justification was that the wage bill, the salary cost will be reduced because less people will be required. I have lived to see that because of the advent of computers, we have had more people, because it allowed the organization to go into what you call the information age. Yes? So that information age did not really reduce the workforce. What you found was that you had a lot more opportunities, and as such, you had a lot more manpower. In some organizations, and at least in the organizations that I was blessed to work at, the roles, the job roles, and that human capital would have to be re-examined as we move forward with artificial intelligence, because as we said, we are now in an artificial intelligence age, and information becomes questionable. So it means that your staffing has to be taken into consideration, not from the perspective of what you expect that AI is going to give to you, but from a risk management perspective. So you have to go back in again. If I am reducing my staff, what's the impact? And to do so, you must also understand the impact of AI, the benefits of AI, the negative impact of AI, and that should drive your staffing. So any changes to your staffing must be driven collaboratively, with risk intelligence, and not with a motive of just using AI as an excuse to reduce your staff cost. So I would want to say that as we move forward into AI in these complex organizations, for us to build that synergy, we have to be able to use that McKinsey 7S model. And not that we should use it, but it is one of those tools that I would say that we need to consider using, because it really removes a lot of the uncertainties when you have an appropriate tool that you can use and focus on as you move forward implementing collaborative governance within our artificial intelligence stage. So thank you very much, participants, and of course, CCGI for giving me this opportunity to be here and share my ideas.
Well, thank you, Claire. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing these insights. And I mean, I really appreciate in particular the extremely holistic view that you've given us. I feel that somehow in 10 minutes you've managed to sum up all the risks and opportunities that this tremendously disruptive force presents to the world. I don't know how you managed to do that, but I found it extremely insightful. I think for me, one of the big take homes as well is that, to your point, there really are no simple organizations anymore. I know we're talking about conglomerates today, but I really appreciated the fact that you also explained that the truth is that in the ecosystem in which businesses are required to operate now, there really are no simple businesses, and certainly not with the introduction of AI. So thank you so much for sharing those thoughts, and looking forward to coming back to you to explore some of these in a bit more detail. But now I'm really excited to get to hear from Andrew Levy. You'd heard his intro, and I'm particularly excited to hear about this from the perspective of somebody who has all this expertise in the world of insurance, given all the risks that we've talked about, both Claire and from the previous speaker. So welcome, Andrew. Thank you. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you very much, Simone. I'm really very pleased to be here and to be able to share my thoughts. Hopefully they make sense to most of the participants in the group. Just some quick background. I'm actually based in Jamaica. I've worked for a couple of different insurance groups, but I have had experience in St. Lucia, Barbados, Trinidad, Turks and Caicos, among others, and currently Belize. So it's a wide range across the region, and it's been interesting to see the different cultures, the different style of operations, the different size of organizations, as I've been through the different roles. I joined, basically the first job was very clerical, and I studied and moved through various positions, management, and then eventually ending up managing director, and now currently operating as a director of a number of companies in Belize and St. Lucia, and chair of the MNC General Insurance Company in St. Lucia. My thoughts are basically where we are now in the Caribbean and the world is that change is a constant. It's not only inevitable, it's inexorable, it's constant, it's increasing. And a concept that was introduced to the world during the pandemic, that of exponential, the spread of the pandemic being exponential, and the difference that all of us had to face in how you deal with something that changes exponentially. AI is similarly going to change and improve exponentially. There is a lady, Mary Mika, who does a lot of commentary on the technology area, and she releases an annual report. The report this year is I think it's 300 slides long, so it's quite long and covers a wide range of area. But there were 3 slides in particular that I thought were very instructive. And I'm quite sure I haven't absorbed the implications of them. But the 3 slides are where AI is now, where ChatGPT primarily is what she focused on, is now, what it can do. And she gave a range of functions, of abilities. Where ChatGPT will be in 5 years, and she gave a number of examples. And then where ChatGPT will be in 10 years. And the degree of change is phenomenal. And I would certainly recommend anybody who has access to, it's freely downloadable on the internet. Just search for Mary Mika report and you'll find it. But those 3 slides I thought were absolutely frightening on one hand, but tremendously, if we harness it properly, will be tremendously powerful in a number of areas. And all of us and all of our organizations, simple or complex, are going to have to adapt to a completely different world within a very short space of time. Okay, so how does that fit into now with governance and synergies and so on? So I want to explore how governance can shift from being a compliance tool to becoming a strategic enabler. Governance, when done right, is the invisible architecture that supports synergy, drives alignment, and fuels excellence across diverse businesses. Our businesses, our organizations are value delivery mechanisms to customers. They do a bunch of other things, but that's primarily what the core of the work is. The work that we do and how we do it, and the culture of the organization can enhance the value delivery process to the customer, or it can destroy value. Things like quality control, supervision, anti-fraud, compliance, reconciliations are things that do not deliver value to the customer directly. I'm not saying they shouldn't be done, but the emphasis of the organization should be on minimizing time and cost of these areas of work. A very powerful tool to do that is to design them into the work process. This is where I think synergy is, we need to be looking at our business processes, taking advantage of the opportunities of that synergies can deliver. It's going to create and require a very different way of approaching the design of work. And governance and compliance, therefore, should be accommodated within the structure of delivering strategic value. So strategic synergy, I think, means simply realizing more value as a group than the sum of what each business unit can deliver on its own. And this goes beyond basic cost cutting, which is the simplest approach, but we're talking about the powerful levers of operational synergies, shared services, procurements, technology platforms. There's a lot of value in that area. It's complicated, and it's going to create cultural and social change and requirements for operating in new ways, but it's tremendously powerful. Knowledge synergies, cross-company learning, common leadership pipelines within a group, cross-training are going to become very valuable tools of delivering knowledge synergies. And AI is a tremendous tool for enhancing knowledge. It allows us a wide range of information that we would have had to have gotten in a much more time-consuming manner, such as consulting people, or even expensive manner by hiring consultants and bringing expertise into our organizations. The use of ChatGPT and all the others, I mean, they're tremendously powerful, and they share deep technical knowledge in a very easy, inexpensive way. Strategic synergies as the third item, areas of joint venture, cross-selling, innovation. We have all in our work life seen a tremendous deepening of regional integration across the Caribbean. There's so many large organizations that cross the region now that it's so much more than when I first started operating or working within my insurance company just solely in Jamaica. Unfortunately, many complex organizations operate like loose federations. They own many businesses, but they don't act like a group. And that's a synergy gap that I believe we have. There's tremendous opportunity there. Just turning quickly to governance. I see governance in a very, very broad way. And let me just list a couple of areas that I think and some of these are not, I don't think are understood to be part of governance. But first of all, strategic oversight, focus and alignment of an organization in its shared vision and mission. Risk management provides stability, risk downside management, protection, and confidence in the organization. Performance monitoring, ensuring that we deliver on the plans and expectations of shareholders. Transparency and ethics, your reputation, stakeholder trust. Culture building, ethical conduct and compliance. Structural synergies, which we've been through a bit. Agility and innovation, resilience, transformation, future readiness. There are a lot of soft skills that get less time perhaps in an organization than they should. And I'm going to build towards the fact that the culture of an organization is becoming more and more important, and less emphasis on the dominance of a visionary or a very strong political leader within an organization. Too often, governance is seen as bureaucracy, as red tape. But in complex organizations, governance is a mechanism that defines how decisions are made, how value is created, and how risks are managed. Done poorly, it can kill initiative. Done well, it creates focus, alignment, and trust. A helpful mindset shift. Think of governance as a scaffolding that supports synergy, strong enough to provide structure, but flexible enough to allow innovation. Now, within that, those simple statements are a wide range of approach. And the organization that takes advantage of the genius and of individuals and their knowledge and the skill will succeed, and those that stifle or require compliance compliance as a police state, where you're forcing behaviors, will not realize the value that the environment that we're in now of change is requiring. So how do we design governance for synergy? I thought of 4 pillars that support strategic synergy. The first is a clarity of roles. Define where the parent company leads and where the businesses lead. But it has to be a shared vision rather than a dictatorial command and control. We're moving away from that command and control mentality where it can be concentrated within just the parent company. You want to empower subsidiaries, because with change requires flexibility, but there have to be agreed boundaries. So we all know the phrase trust but verify. The second area, second pillar is strategic alignment mechanisms, where you have shared planning cycles, strategic reviews, and cross-unit KPIs. You can use technology, dashboards, and performance contracts to align focus. Third pillar is integrated risk and compliance, where we have standardized frameworks with some flexibility for business-specific approaches and risks. You want to have central oversight, but not central interference. And the fourth pillar I see is leadership and culture. Talent movement within a group, across the group, development of employees where you're seeing different perspectives, shared values, decision-making norms, and purpose. Remember, culture eats strategy for breakfast, and governance should help shape culture too. I think culture is an often overlooked area of management focus. It's soft, but it's not easy. But it is very, very important. There's a proverb, if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together as a team with shared vision and shared understanding of the objective. So closing, what should boards and group and participants take away from this? I think basically strategic synergy is not automatic. It must be governed. It has to be encouraged and led. And leadership and culture are really very crucial elements of it. The role of governance is not just to ensure accountability, it is to create a platform for collaboration, set expectations for performance and ethics, and drive the behaviors that turn group potential into group performance. Final thought, in complex organizations, governance isn't red tape, it's a red carpet to strategic value. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. I think that one definitely resonated with me, and I think I'm going to have to steal that phrase from you and start, encouraging people to think of governance as a red carpet and not red tape. And I think that's definitely where a lot of what you talked about, and also Claire did as well, about how it is that you approach governance, using governance as a strategic enabler. I think it's all about the way that you kind of view governance in your organization and how it should operate for you. So I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that. Thanks also for pointing out that, giving that idea of governance as a scaffolding. I really appreciate that. And I think because Claire gave, like yourself, gave such a holistic view, I think it helped us to kind of put everything that she said into this bucket, or this idea of this scaffolding, that everything comes into play there. And importantly, you both raised the issue of culture and of EQ, how important that is as a tool in terms of dealing with AI and the disruption and the change that's taking place, the exponential change, as you had raised. But I'm also quite excited about the fact that you touched on the fact that even though AI is a disruptor, AI is also a tool to help to drive the synergies in complex organization, also to be used as a tool for governance. And I'm really looking forward to talking about that a little bit more. But let me see if I know we have one other speaker who ought to have joined. Is Dale here?
No, he's not yet here, Simone, so we could probably start the discussions with Andrew and Claire.
Okay, great. So we'll since unfortunately Dale isn't here yet, I'd love to start with a little bit of reflection on some of the thoughts that you've both shared. Claire, I think I'd mentioned just now that there are obviously synergies and similarities between some of the themes that both you and Andrew raised, but he'd also, I think, talked a little bit more about how AI itself can be used as a tool to achieve some of the issues that you raised. So for example, you had talked about looking at strategy, rethinking how we look at strategy, rethinking how we look at governance, at risk frameworks, given all the risks around AI. You'd mentioned in particular cybersecurity. And a big part of what you both talked about that really resonated with me was culture. Culture, not only in terms of making sure you have a robust framework for risk and also compliance, given all the risks around, veracity and being able to verify sources of things that come from AI, but also on the softer side of things, on the EQ side of things, making sure you help to prepare your team, how it is that you communicate decisions that are taken at a time like this, managing a team through all these, all the disruption that's being caused there. The issue of the fear that I think you had raised of people thinking, oh gosh, it's going to replace my job and so on. So what I wanted to ask you to comment on, Claire, in particular, was, do you think that AI, the disruptor, the factor that's causing all of this disruption and change and confusion and worry, is it also the tool or the mechanism that you can sort of employ to manage some of these issues? Did you have any thoughts on that, how it could be used as a tool there?
Yes, there are benefits from AI. And as we said before, moving away from information age to artificial intelligence age, it means that it is just another platform to get the information throughout the organization. And especially as we are dealing with complex organizations, you want to make sure that the right message gets to the right people throughout the organization. And as we said before, one of the biggest challenges for artificial intelligence is those fraudulent presentations of information. I think this is the biggest issue here. Other than that, it's just a matter of a faster way, a smarter way of using information, or I should say using data to give us information and letting something else think for us. So instead of only having our leaders think for us, we have a lot more capacity using artificial intelligence to generate that information for us, to do that research for us, do the analysis for us. But as we said before, garbage in is garbage out. You see? So we need to make sure that the people within the organization understand that and they question anything that comes before them. There must be more discerning capabilities, critical thinking in the organization. You see, so that is where I'm saying that you have to now look at your staff, look at your skills within the organization. Are they really and truly ready for AI? You know, so yes, we are ready to grab the benefits. And I think, as we said before, we have been using the benefits. We realize the benefits, but the amount of risk that it brings, we have to understand those risks. We have to determine, do we have to wait another 10 years when we get more confidence, when it is tested? Or are we at a stage where we can simply use it? Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think so. Because to me, the biggest risk of artificial intelligence is the level of non-factual information. And especially in the video presentations. You see, you used to have that skill set only for the movies. You know, you create all these all these fancy moves and all these explosions. You know, a lot of those things were reserved for those persons producing movies. Yes, but now it is day-to-day replication. Day-to-day replication. So I can use artificial intelligence and give an excerpt of a full board meeting with decisions being taken that's impacting everyone within the organization. Yeah. But the fact is, the board meeting never was held. It never occurred. The board directors never made that decision. But yet you're actually seeing a video that says X, Y, and Z. And we saw that happening recently there where was it Dr. Ronald Ramkissoon? There was a video out there that says, oh, he is recommending, or he has this platform, and you can invest $1,600 US dollars, yeah, and you are guaranteed to get $3,000 a week. And if it is you don't get it from your investment, he will take it out of his pocket to give you. Right? That was artificial intelligence that was being promoted on social media. And those persons, the public, who are either greedy, who are fraudulent, or who just are not discerning truth from fact, they are going to fall for it. They are going to put in their money. They are going to test him and then sue him, you know, because you know fully well you are not going to get back that 3,000. But at the same time, your reputation now is being ruined. It is being negatively impacted by this artificial intelligence. So you don't want that happening within your organization. So as a board, you want to make sure that you control the actions of your staff, that they do not create those type of social contents and feel that it is fun, it is a joke. It is not a joke, you know? So ensuring that everyone understands that even their WhatsApp messages and these TikTok videos that they are creating, how it's impacting the credibility of themselves as leaders or officers or employees of an organization, yeah, and how that can negatively impact the organization itself by association. So we want to make sure that everybody understands the risk that that artificial intelligence is bringing upon the organization, and they are so trained. And as we said before, the skill sets are changing. Because I don't think that we talked about critical thinking, yes, which is what you'd really want to have half of your employees having critically thinking skills. We know that does not happen. Yeah, you might get 25% if you're lucky. It means now you're trying to force 100% of your staff to become critical thinkers. Is that possible? But if it is we do not make it happen, then what's going to happen? A lot of false information is going to be brought into the organization and will be executed. to the detriment of the organization. So let me stop here, because you know when I start,
No, but there's a lot to unpack.
speaker, I can go nonstop. So let.
No, well, thanks for those insights. And I mean, I think, you know, I read an article recently, and I've made a note to look up the one that Andrew referred to earlier. So I can, because that also sounds like it would be very, very useful. But I read an article recently about this concern around AI taking jobs and so on. And that the kind of hypothesis there was that, well, the jobs that you have to be really concerned about are what AI is going to replace is mediocre and low level work. And it's going to force everybody to, you know, operate at a much higher levels. Coming back to what you said about critical thinking, Claire, like you're going to have to bring a different level of skill, you know, bring in all these things, because AI now will be able to do mediocre work very much more quickly, much more efficiently. So people will have to bring a much higher standard. So I wanted to get Andrew's thoughts on some of this. You know, how is it that we kind of, to your point, Andrew, use the tools and kind of reap the benefits of AI? Because without a doubt, I think we all know that there's so many things that AI can do for us, make us more efficient. It can help us with decision analysis. How do we do this, but kind of manage all the risks? And in particular, the important issue that you both raised around culture. How do we educate our teams and help our team to prepare for the reality of the fact that you simply cannot even know the veracity of information? You simply do not know how it is that you, if something is real or false. And I imagine in the insurance industry, given your expertise, this is something that probably has arisen as a very big concern there. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Claire's points. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I think using the analogy of Alcoholics Anonymous, the first step is to admit that you have a problem. Once you admit you have a problem, you can take steps to break it down and then apply techniques to it. That's what risk management does. You identify them, then you go on to how do you reduce them? How do you mitigate? How do you transfer? How do you share, etc. I think I'm encouraged by the fact that I think we, as human beings, we have a tremendous capacity for learning, critical thinking, cooperation. I think some of the when you have an environment that's changing and changing quickly, that's what we do best. We assess, we analyze, we use our experience, and we come up with new methods. I think we have as a region, I think it's human. We try and standardize, and that standardization is great for efficiency, but it has its drawbacks, and it creates a certain lack of flexibility. And we're going to have to find a way to develop processes that deliver efficiency while at the same time remaining flexible enough to adapt to changing situations. I think a skill that I think is very underrated is curiosity. The flexibility, learning. I think those are key components that we all know that education allows you to move from a basic skill level to a more advanced skill level, and therefore you enhance your earning capacity and the value that you deliver. I think we're going to have to focus more and more on ensuring that our populations are educated at a much higher level, and to include, I think there's a speech by Ken Robinson, I think it is, where he commented on the purpose of educational institutions in the 1900s was on providing workers to a type of industry with a certain structure, and that it was not for the individual growth, and it was to provide a certain level of worker because that's what industry needed. I think we need to adapt that and take what are we going to need going forward, and adapt our education both basic education, but also vocational and university education, tertiary education, to a different style of learning. I think that's where we will then be able to take advantage of some of the tools, the more advanced tools that are being presented.
Yes, thanks for that, Adrian, and I agree completely. And I think the other question that we probably, we have to be lifelong learners. We have to keep being curious. We have to, because quite frankly, I think that will also help us to mitigate some of the risks that Claire also raised. Because if you're questioning everything, then you're not simply accepting whatever's put before you. You're constantly looking beyond it and thinking. But then again, of course, the being a lifelong learner, constantly understanding what's out there, is another important way of educating yourself on what the risks are, which are changing, every moment in the landscape that we're in now. AI is moving fast. So it's really important to keep that constant curiosity and learning. Let me make sure I understand what's out there. Don't kind of just be numb to everything that's happening around you. And I wanted to ask, if Claire had any other thoughts, if you wanted to share on that before we turn around for questions, because she raised, as well as yourself, the importance of culture in organizations. And this idea of how do you embed this curiosity and this quest for lifelong learning in the fabric of your actual organization. I mean, it's obviously great on an individual level. It's very important, but not everyone will have the mentorship of an Andrew and a Claire. And so what happens in your actual conglomerate, in your workplace, and especially in a conglomerate, which is large, complex. Andrew, you had raised, having subsidiaries and business units that are fairly autonomous, because you're not trying to kind of dictate what they do, but how do you cascade down the culture, and in particular, a culture of lifelong learning and curiosity? And I wondered if Claire could share some thoughts on that, and perhaps we can take some questions at that point. Kamla, because I don't know if Dale is joining us. Okay, yeah, thanks.
So as I mentioned before, collaborative governance, which is key in any complex organization. And that means to say that even though you may have various entities with separate boards, those boards must be able to speak to each other, to have a common platform, common values, common messages. And also within the entity itself, the board must speak to the officers of the organization, to the leaders of the organization. It can't be that they're sitting in this boardroom, just coming in, taking up the papers, making decisions, not making decisions, and just going home and coming back next month. It can't work like that anymore. It means to say that they must interface with their officers, because each officer is a subject matter expert. And as we said before, that AI, cybersecurity issues, etc., those are the subject matter experts you want in your boardroom. So it means now that the members of the board, the skill set that's on the board has to change. Yes, it has to change so that you can get a better integration for synergy throughout the entire entity, whatever form that entity may be in. You need to be able to make sure that the boards speak to the officers of the organization, the subject matter experts, listen to them, and there's proper communication going back and forth. There's a period of time where they have to sit down and be taught. So the officers and the directors of the organization cannot say, I am not prepared to learn. They need to sit down and listen and learn. Yes, and also to what type of culture do you see? And what type of structure do you see? Do you see a structure where it is you have a lot more quality reviewers in the organization? Do you see an organization with a lot more internal auditors? Yes, you have to be able to see, have the eyes there. Yeah, however those eyes may be. So you may very well find yourself not having just a quality review or a quality department consisting of only 2 persons or 3 persons, but you may have a full-fledged quality department, especially for data, especially for information. And then the internal audit has to expand in mind and maybe in quantity, so that they can do a lot more insightful work with whatever information is flowing within the organization. also too, I think challenging everyone in the organization to be smarter than artificial intelligence. I think just a matter of saying, I need you to be smarter than the robot, smarter than the computer. You need to think it through, you know. But we need to challenge each other. I think if we don't do it, we are going to fail, and artificial intelligence will really and truly take over. So we need to, you know, really and truly have to think it through.
Yeah, thanks for that. Andrew, I don't know if you wanted to give a further comment before we
no, I
the
think
questions.
that's
Yeah.
we've pretty much covered that.
Yeah. And
that
listening to
learning.
the two of you, I think what's resonating with me more than anything else is just time is of the essence. You know, there's so much to be done. There's
get
so much to
started.
think about. We can't wait. I'm sure a lot of people have questions and comments that they'd like to share. So I'm going to ask if you could do a show raise hands using the
icon.
Zoom mechanism to raise hands. Yeah. And I think,
Yes,
let's see if there are any questions in the chat as well. I'm not seeing any, but I'd
Not
like to
yet,
open the
but,
floor now to some
Simone,
questions from, yeah.
if I may, Simone,
Yes, please.
I wanted to get thoughts from Claire and Andrew on this, because I really love how they have unpacked this, you know, as Claire has pointed very clearly to the issue of deepfakes, but she has laid that responsibility also to the boardroom to say, how do you ensure that when there's an authentic message from the boardroom, that employees can differentiate and know? So, you know, that's important. And I like how both of them spoke to the importance of culture in the organization, because this is the greatest way to combat misinformation, is by having the type of culture that helps you to know when something resonates right with you, because that's the way we do things, as opposed to when suddenly there's a bit of news that, you know, that it's as Claire gave the explanation. And I like, there were two other points I wanted to quickly touch on, where Andrew, for instance, spoke about central oversight, but not central interference. So it's like this balancing act that the board now needs to engage in, where you have to build out your culture. And as Claire said, you have to challenge your people to upskill themselves, to try and be better than the robots and the AI, because you have to allow for a certain amount of autonomy. But the parent board still has to have some amount of central oversight in that process. You see, and that's the true complexity that's going to arise in this environment. But there's something I wanted to ask both of them in the context of previous discussions over the days. There will be a lot more use of the AI. We have understood, and this is particularly so in the Caribbean region, the lack of data, good data or quality data now becomes even second. The first is we don't even have the data collected in the first instance, right? So the likelihood, and if we listen to Patricia's presentation this morning, she broke down that risk management, the likelihood of using the AI and not getting the predictions right and not getting the analysis right could be because we don't have accurate data. Now, one of our presenters, I think it was Dr. Dion Chamberlain, spoke very strongly on the impact on people when incorrect decisions are made. And we have seen examples of this around the world where organizations allowed employees to suffer because they refused to own up to the fact that there was a computer error, there was a glitch that led to wrong outcomes. So one of the key things that is important for us to get in place is some sort of an appeal process for when decisions are made and there's a cry out on the part of humans, well, that this is not true or this is not so. So is this something, Claire, that we are going to see as an entire new stream that has to be developed within the work environment?
Yes, because as I said before, the change in systems must take place. Yeah? It means now that how do you ensure that you get that feedback and that information to make a decision? And then how do you recognize when something has gone wrong, when there's suspiciousness within the organization, where they're questioning, because it's not a matter that they're questioning your authority, they are questioning the information that they're receiving. You see, you want them to question. So it means that the time of just command and control, and I have the authority, when I write this, you better follow it, etc. No, you have to allow that in the system now so that you can get that feedback, you see? So how do you do it? Different organizations may have to tackle it differently, because sometimes a decision has to be executed immediately. So you don't have much time for that turnaround. So what do you do to make sure that when the decision is being made, you have the right information already in place? And that's why we said before, maybe you need a lot more quality reviewers and internal auditors that can give you that level of comfort in the boardroom, that this data that is being used for this analysis, is it all right? You know, because even, let's say, for instance, determining share price, what are you going to use if the information outside is questionable? You know, you are going to end up making a decision that is right based on the information that you got, but it's just that the information is wrong. You see, so I believe getting the type of validation of information that's coming in for decision making will be important, and I see that will really and truly make a difference. Also, every one of us have our third-party service providers, you see. So once we are interacting, we are no longer with closed doors, yes? All of our doors are open, because for us to execute anything, we have a third party out there interfacing with us, feeding us, yes? So it means information or whatever it is coming from them has also to be taken into consideration. So it's not only what you do within the organization itself, but those affiliated organizations, those partnerships that you would want to have, you know. So it has to extend beyond just that small system of getting information into the boardroom, making decisions, and then sending it out for execution.
Well, agreed. And it's applying the governance principles. And this is where what we're doing is setting out principles that can adapt to different circumstances. And therefore, once you set the principles and you follow the principles and you don't run blindly with conclusions or based on whatever data, you have to go through a process of validation and verification, perhaps small test it with groups and so on. So we apply the principles of governance to the new situations that arise. I know that there is a lot of work being done in setting out a Caribbean AI policy and roadmap. I saw a document which I have just downloaded a copy of, which I haven't digested, but so the fact that it's being supported by the United Nations, UNESCO. I know Jamaica has produced a national AI policy. I don't know what the extent of its framework is and how it's going to impact companies, but the work is taking place at a government level, which we need to be aware of, adapt, and start to incorporate in our operating and governance standards.
Simone, I have another question, which is for both Claire and Andrew, but I wanted to go to Andrew first because it was raised by someone in his sector, from Andrew Rowe, actually, in insurance. And he mentioned that, you know, there is insurance for cyber risks. So you could take out cybersecurity insurance. But given with AI and these kinds of changes, Andrew, what are the kinds of changes that you are seeing coming in the insurance industry that is likely to mean more and different type products having to be offered in this kind of new environment?
Yeah, well, certainly cyber insurance is a new area. You've identified the risks as companies have suffered either deepfake issues or a Nigerian email. We have to adapt to the risks that are exposed to all of us. I think in Jamaica, the FSC has required a certain amount of training in this area. I'm not actively participating, but I believe that's the case, that boards have to be trained in this area. So we're creating a knowledge level and a understanding that there are issues that need to be focused on. The international insurance community, clearly, the Caribbean is only a small part of the world economy. A lot of these things are happening in more lucrative, where there are more lucrative opportunities, so we can learn from what happens externally. Companies that I'm involved with have purchased cyber insurance. That's a protection mechanism for the potential cost, but clearly it's much better to prevent the thing from happening in the first place. So to put robust security and standards in place for training of your employees, so to make them aware of what possibilities are. In the same way we've done it with the anti-money laundering requirements across the Caribbean. All directors have to go through and show the regulators that we're sensitive to, we understand the risks. It's not so much an individual company risk issue, but it's putting our economies at risk if we are designated an area that's has high potential for money laundering and so on. I think I've run out of steam.
But do you think we're doing enough on that note? Do you think
No,
it's
I
enough
think
to prepare to get ahead of everything, given that time is the essence and all these, so much is required, so much thought is required, and
I think there's
rethinking of
pockets.
structures and so on.
Yeah, I think there's pockets of a lot of activity, but I think broadly we're probably as regions we're slow to make that to adapt, but I think it's going to increase in speed. And that's the nature of every economy. Those that move first, that are able to take advantage of technologies and improve their margins or reduce their risks, do better than those that move slower. That's life. That's how it should happen. Those that are more intelligent or more focused or whatever, or perhaps more lucky. No, we should remove that. Do better, and therefore the economy and the companies move at different paces. But by and large, those that don't adapt will die off, and those that do will make the outsized returns, hopefully.
Simone, Dale have joined us now. I know it's just 15 more minutes for this panel, but it is enough time to allow him to be able to contribute his thoughts. So Dale, if you want to put on your camera and let's see, do a quick check with your audio, and I'm going to step away and allow Simone to complete this panel with you. Right, there you are. So I'd allow Control to highlight you now and bring you into the room.
Good afternoon,
Welcome,
everybody.
Dale.
Hi.
Welcome, Dale.
Hi,
I'm
Simone.
so glad you're able to join us. We've been expecting you. I'd
Yes,
actually
I know.
given a brief bio for you a little earlier on. So I think everyone's aware of your expertise and so on. And we'd love to hopefully you caught a little bit of the tail end of the discussion with Andrew and Claire. So we have 15 minutes left, as Kamala said. So I would happily dedicate that time to you to see. Please feel free react to any other issues that Andrew and Claire have raised. Add your own thoughts. We welcome you. We're very happy to have you here.
Well,
Thanks
I
for
didn't hear
joining.
what Andrew and Claire had said,
No problem.
but if anybody have any questions that they want to shoot to me directly about the use of AI technology in conglomerates, they can. I have a little bit of experience with it, but not a whole lot, but I can share whatever experience that I have. Anybody have questions they want to ask? Claire?
Well, there aren't any questions prepared just yet, Dale, but did you want to give like a 5-minute in terms of your
Since
experience?
we didn't have the opportunity before, we'd be happy to
Yes. So
give
what
you
I
the floor
can,
for a bit to,
and this is with regards to artificial intelligence in conglomerates, correct? So what I found that where AI can be useful is in supply chain in particular. So what you have is you have different companies at different locations and conglomerates buying sometimes from the same suppliers or similar suppliers and don't really know what each other is doing. So by using AI to consolidate some of the data that is there within the different companies in the conglomerate, what they can do is they can capitalize and leverage on some of those supplies. So, for example, anybody here in manufacturing? Anybody on the panel? Anybody? Okay. So, for example, sometimes your companies buy from let's just say sugar, for example, and one company in the conglomerate might be buying sugar from one supplier, and one might be buying from the same supplier unknowingly to each other sometimes. And what you can do is you can combine those two to benefit on volume sometimes because they don't know. So supply chain is very, very important. The other thing that I found that where AI could be useful in conglomerates is also on the customer end, because sometimes you have various companies within a conglomerate doing business with some countries and territories, and sometimes they may or may not know about the particular customer and the credit history about that customer, so they might be able to participate in sharing of information by combining the information and AI giving you a report history on what might be the potential risk and probably even rewards from this customer or next customer. So really it is assimilating and combining the information as where AI can help conglomerates with supply and on the customer end. With regards to administrative, I'm not sure if there can be any administrative benefit, but I'm pretty sure that in time to come that will be revealed with regards to how they can benefit administratively. But from my knowledge, I know that supply chain and customer are two good areas that conglomerates can benefit.
Okay, thanks very much for sharing that, Dale. I think that really rounds out our discussion very well, because I think we'd spent a lot of time talking about, risks and opportunities, and I really appreciate that you kind of brought this into at a very practical level on like some very specific uses for that, AI can be made in conglomerates, particularly in the manufacturing area. So I think we talked a lot about some of the risks and so on. So it's good to know, these are some of the things that businesses also clearly need to think about as they use AI as a tool going forward. And I appreciate you sharing your experience on how that's been done in your sector.
And particularly for some companies as well, not only in conglomerates, but just generally speaking, I know some companies are using AI to find out where might be the lowest hanging fruit in let's just say, for example, Simone is trying to export to, I don't know, you're making manufacturing butter, for example, or margarine, and you're trying to find out where might be the lowest hanging fruit. There are AI apps now that you can use, because before what you would have to do is you would have to check the GDP per capita, you would have to, which is the buying power, you'll have to check the import taxes, you will have to check a whole heap of information. And what by using AI, what you can do, there's an app actually that I can share that will tell you which might be the best opportunity for you or the lowest hanging fruit to export your margarine to, without going into a whole lot of research and so on. And basically how it works is that it will identify, for example, who are the biggest distributors for your product in whichever territory, where is the lowest import duty for your product, where is the who are the biggest players, and what are the competitors of that product in the country, in that particular country. It can tell you how much they import as well, in terms of tubs of margarine or millions of US dollars, and it can tell you a whole lot of information. So AI is really reshaping the way we do business. It is eliminating, it is increasing the efficiency of a lot of stuff, and it is helping, because we are at TTMA right now, we are using AI quite a lot. And we don't have to, take a lot of time researching and so on. We just cut to the chase immediately.
Okay.
So that's another way with regards to things like searching for the lowest, if I know that there's another company called Rams Logistics in our TTMA membership that just developed an AI app for evaluating all customs documents within an organization based on historical patterns, and telling you what might be the best HS code to use for that particular, to optimize the lowest amount of import taxes you pay on that particular product. So if you just imagine, if you're a company like Brightness, for example, importing tools, and these tools might be like, I don't know, about 500 different tools on one invoice. It will quickly classify and tell you which are the lowest and best HS customs tariff codes to use to minimize your time and the taxes that you will have to pay on those items, for example. So yeah, AI is really reshaping. It is here to stay, and it will only grow because it is a self-learning tool that continues to grow. When I say learn and learn and learn until you reach a pinnacle that will probably never reach, you will keep learning after that.
I'm so glad that you raised that, because we spent, right before you joined, we spent a lot of time talking about the impact that this is going to have on human resources. The fact that now your team needs to be, I think it was Andrew who made the point, or Claire, that you now have to challenge your team to be smarter than AI, because AI is doing so many other functions in a much more efficient, much more rapid way than perhaps they would have done themselves.
Yes,
so we talked a lot about the fact that you now have to be so much better. You have to bring a higher standard. You have to bring more soft skills, more of what AI so far can't offer. You need to be able to kind of distinguish yourself from that, and to kind of build that into your culture in the organization and cascade that down through your whole team. So that, and I just want to ask you, Dale, just leading on what you said, since we talked about all this, we had also talked the impact that all of this has on the team. You're actually, dealing with situations where you're practically applying AI in lots of different ways to take over, functions that would, I guess, previously been done by people. I mean, what has the impact been in your organization on your team, or kind of yeah.
So it has been actually a very educational process that has been, hold on, just a minute, switch up a phone. Yeah.
We're not checking AI for the answer, Dale.
You're 5 minutes away from end time. So as Dale
All
gets
right.
his
So what I was gonna say, it is very very enlightening and eye-opening for a lot of my staff. And what I am doing now is I am having internal AI educational courses so that people could be ahead of AI, because we need to be ahead of it. Because if not, there are other companies and other people just like ourselves using AI to their advantage. And if we don't keep up to speed, we're going to be left behind. And that's just simply it. So this this AI topic on corporate governance is extremely the timing is perfect. It couldn't be more perfect because this thing, if you don't get ahead of it, it is going to get ahead of you. And if it doesn't, the people and your competitors and the people who are around you going to move ahead of you. So it's better now than you have to do it now. There's no delay in this.
I think Dale's participation has added a good dimension because he's much more physically, whereas I think we are much more service-oriented businesses. But one area that I know is very easy to add that all of us have is customer service. And customer service, my experience with most organizations is it's difficult to get hold of people. It's difficult to get answers. And there are tools that deliver customer service using chatbots and artificial intelligence to answer queries. And if you link it into your backend systems, you can ask through WhatsApp or any one of the social media tools. You can link into the company's database and say, so you can ask the chatbot, what's my balance on my account? And it can look it up and give you back. And you can provide 24/7 service very quickly. So that's an area that I think any organization can take advantage of very quickly and really deliver value to their customers. I was listening to a podcast recently where they were talking about areas where AI is going to have a large impact. And one example that they gave was of marketing and creating marketing campaigns, where you just feed in a little information about the company, the country, some of the culture, whatever, some of the relevant factors, and the AI would produce a marketing campaign with social media, this, with a little video, that, with, and these are things that we can take advantage of in the Caribbean. These things exist. We just need to employ them. Yes, we're going to need to polish them a little bit and make sure they're appropriate and culturally relevant and so on. But it would reduce the cost of producing marketing material quite substantially.
Yeah, but
So
Andrew, I just would a caution about that, right?
Yeah.
Because of like you're talking about marketing, service, and customer service. You remember that there are different cultures of people, different behaviors, and you have to know your customer audience before you do that. So every single
Yes.
thing that AI pushes
Yes.
out, you have
Yes.
to, a human
Yeah.
still have to put intelligence over it to customize it to every single case. I see Rhea Mankey is here, and I know she's an attorney. So for example, you could load up a whole lot of I only say that because I know. You can load up a whole lot of case studies on law, what happened before in this particular situation, and then it will give you the best possible solution on dispute resolution on it. But you still have to customize it. So regardless of what the situation is with AI, you still have to customize it and look it through, because you might make yourself look foolish if you just copy from ChatGPT or
Yes.
from Perplexity or one of those AI apps to
That's right.
type a letter
Yes.
or so, and then you end up looking foolish. So you don't want to
Yes.
do that at all. You always have to customize, and it could cut the lead time, of course. I know it cuts the lead time, but you still have to read it through. So what it does actually gives you a head start.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think
And
thank you
let
so
me
much
make
for
one
that. I think
statement.
Claire had said, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, because I think Andrew made a statement there, and I started to smile, because one of the biggest challenges in the insurance industry for us is really know your customer requirements. Half of your customer, you can't find them. The information that you've got on a policy, 50 years ago or 20 years ago, does not appear to be the current information on your customers. And you're hoping that they will respond to your request to complete this information and bring it in. And that does not happen. So it brings the benefit of using artificial intelligence to trace these customers. But then again, to how intrusive can you go? So that's another area that, of course, we have to look at it from the legal perspective.
Yeah.
Because if somebody does
Privacy
not want
and
to
so
be
on.
found,
Yeah.
can you go behind that veil and find them and
Yes.
then approach them to say, hey, this is where you are, and
Well-
even so, when you're looking at anti-money laundering requirements, etc., are you a U.S. citizen? Should you be paying U.S. tax, although you're living in Trinidad? And
So Claire,
ChatGPT or AI could tell you that person, because of their travel pattern, etc., and whatnot, it falls under that category. You
So-
see, so a lot of things are there that can be intrusive, but yet very beneficial, where it is that you need to use that to get that
Yes.
information.
yes, I was just
And-
going to say that, or even now, you can even put in the social media, like Facebook, names and so on of people that you want to find, and you can track them, You could find out what they're doing, and you could let it compile all of the information and find out where you went last week, where you went who you like, which political party you like, who your claims ratio in another insurance agency. You can find out all of that information very easily with AI.
Exactly. Because my husband went and put in, and that's just last week, because I put on Google Earth app on his phone, and he's there fiddling around, so he's trying to use this Google Earth app, and he's searching for our address, 73 Pinewood Avenue, our address, not even any names. And it popped up that the list of certified fraud examiners, in the American list, you're seeing Claire Gomez Miller. So he came and he says, I didn't know that you were certified fraud examiner. I said, yes, I was years ago, when I was training others in fraud and investigation, etc. And it popped up there. What happened at that point in time, there wasn't any Trinidad presence. So what they did is they just put me into that American presence. So you'll see it on the list for US fraud examiners, right? And that, just his search picked it up and pulled my name, because it pulled it by address. It pulled it by address. So a lot of us thinking that, okay, artificial intelligence is not going to just use any bit of information on you, that it is just going to use your name. No, that is not the truth. So location, as Dave just spoke of, is very essential. So which means to say, it can say, who has been at this nightclub on so-and-so date, and flag you, So you need...
That's a whole other area of risk than the ones that we talked about, Claire.
So
Thank
you
you.
can
Makes you worry about your
very
digital
interesting.
footprint. I think we're out of time, though.
Yes, please. Let's just ask everyone to
So-
wrap up. Thanks.
Yeah, man, I think this conversation will go on forever, but I really have to want to thank our excellent panelists today and all the participants, and of course, Kamla and team for putting this together. I think this was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the insight that Claire and Andrew and Dale bringing some of the practical experiences that he's had in this area. I mean, I think it's suffice to say that it's an extremely complex area. We cannot sleep on it. We have to prepare. We have to get ahead. We have to be lifelong learners. So I want to thank our panel of lifelong learners for sharing their insights with us today. And thank you, Kamla.
Thank you, Simone. And thank you, Kamla,
You're very
and
welcome.
CCGI team and the Bogas. Thank you,
Thank you
Kamla,
for
thinking
inviting
of
me. Sorry, I wasn't here earlier. I could give all that more insight. Sorry.
Do a part 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Thank you.